My family said I'd ruin the wedding, give your sister her day, so I didn't go. That night, I saw on the news, her fiancé hit her in front of the entire banquet hall. My phone buzzed at 3 in the morning. I woke up to the vibration, some kind of message in my Messenger app. I usually turn off the sound at night, but this time I forgot. I'd been restless, tossing and turning until 2 o'clock, so the screen lit up just as I opened my eyes again. It was Amber, my former classmate. We weren't close, but we exchanged messages on social media from time to time, mostly memes or news about mutual acquaintances. Angelica, I don't know how to tell you this. Have you seen it? Below was a link to some video. I clicked on it and the screen lit up. A banquet hall decorated with white flowers and garlands of lights. Vivian's wedding, my older sister's. The wedding I wasn't invited to. The camera was shaking in someone's hands, but the image was clear. Lucas, the groom, now presumably a husband, stood in the middle of the dance floor. His face was red and contorted. Vivian stood before him in a luxurious dress, her veil slipping to the side. She was saying something, her hand raised, and then suddenly, a sharp blow with an open palm to the face. The guests gasped. Someone screamed, and Lucas swung again, this time with his fist. Vivian fell. The video ended. I sat in bed, not believing what I was seeing. I watched it again and again. I couldn't believe it. Lucas had always been so calm, smiling, polite. Mom was thrilled with him. Vivian was flying with happiness. And me, I was sitting at home in my tiny apartment because a week ago I was told not to come to my own sister's wedding. I remember that call as if it were yesterday. Saturday morning, I was drinking coffee in the kitchen, getting ready for another court hearing. Mom called early at 9 o'clock. Her voice was tense. Angelica, we need to talk. I immediately became alert. Mom uses that tone when she wants to tell me something delicate. But in reality, she has already decided everything without me. What is it, Mom? The wedding. You know how important this day is for Vivian. I know, I already bought a dress and a gift. That's the problem. Mom sighed, as if it were difficult for her to say the next words. Vivian is worried. She wants everything to be perfect, and she asked me to talk to you. I put down my cup. Mom, what are you talking about? Lucas once mentioned that he likes you. Remember? At that picnic in the summer, he said you were a very nice girl. I remembered. It was a year ago when Vivian had just started dating him. We all went to the lake together. Lucas was sitting next to me when I told a silly story from work about a court clerk who mixed up some files. He laughed and said, "You're very nice, Angie. Vivian is lucky to have a sister like you." A normal compliment. Nothing special. I didn't even think about it afterwards. So what? I blurted out. He was just being polite. Vivian doesn't think so. Mom's voice became firmer. She says you always, you pay too much attention to him. You laugh at his jokes. You look at him for too long. Mom, that's crazy. Maybe, but it's her wedding, Angelica, her day. She doesn't want anything or anyone to overshadow it. Do you understand? I was silent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She's asking you not to come, Mom finally said. Just for one day, give her that day, please. I wanted to scream, to tell her it wasn't fair, that I hadn't done anything, that she was my sister and I had a right to be at her wedding. But I never knew how to argue with my mother. Never. Ever since my father died in that car accident when I was 8 and Vivian was 13, my mother became the center of our world, and she always chose Vivian. Always. Okay, I replied quietly. Thank you, sweetheart. You're so kind. Vivian will be happy. After that, I walked around in a daze for a whole week. I didn't tell anyone. At work, my colleague Drew asked me several times if everything was okay, but I just nodded and hid behind my papers. The night before the wedding, Vivian didn't even write. Mom was silent too. Only Uncle Warren, our late father's brother, sent a short message. Heard you're not coming. That's silly. So, hang in there. And now, this video. I called my mother. The subscriber is unavailable. Again and again. On the 5th try, she picked up the phone. Mom, what happened? I saw the video. Angelica? Her voice was cracking. Mom was crying. My God, where were you? Why didn't you come? I couldn't believe my ears. You told me not to come. If you had been there, this wouldn't have happened. He saw someone in the crowd who reminded him of you, and he snapped. It's because of you. My breath caught in my throat. Mom, I wasn't even there. How could it be because of me? I don't know, but Vivian is in the hospital. Lucas is missing, and the police are investigating. And you could have done something if you had been there. She hung up. I stared blankly at the phone. Then I grabbed my car keys and ran to the door. I didn't make a decision to go. My body just acted on its own. My hands were shaking as I started the engine. 20 minutes later, I was standing in the hospital reception area. The nurse looked at me with sympathy. Hey, Vivian Corbin. She's in room 307, but visitors aren't allowed in right now. I'm her sister. I know, but your mother asked not to let you in. I'm sorry. I stood in the middle of the hallway, feeling like a stranger. Suddenly, my mother came around the corner. Her face was swollen from crying, her eyes red. She saw me and stopped. What are you doing here? I want to see Vivian. She doesn't want to see you. Go home, Angelica. Mom, please. You ruined everything, she exclaimed, and several people turned to look. If you had just behaved normally, nothing would have happened. But no, you always have to be the center of attention. I wanted to say something back, but my throat was tight. Mom turned and walked back to the ward. The nurse touched my elbow sympathetically. Maybe you should leave. They're all on edge right now. I nodded and wandered toward the exit. I got in the car but didn't start the engine. I just sat there staring into space. It was nighttime. The parking lot was half empty, and somewhere in the distance, an ambulance siren wailed. The phone rang again. It was Uncle Warren. Hello, child, he said in a low, calm voice. Did you hear what happened? Yes. I was on my way to the hospital, but it's a circus there. Your mother says Lucas ran away. The police have issued a warrant for his arrest. Vivian refuses to file a report. I was silent. Angie, listen to me carefully. I don't believe this crap. They're saying that it's your fault. It's not your fault. And if you need anything, call me. I'm always on your side, understand? I barely managed to say yes. Hang in there, and don't let anyone hurt you. He hung up. I sat in the car and thought about one thing. If Lucas was capable of doing this in public on his wedding day, in front of 100 guests with cameras, what did he do to Vivian when no one was watching? Vivian came home 3 days later. My mother sent me a short message. Vivian has been discharged, don't call. But I wasn't going to call, I just drove there. Again, without a plan, without thinking. I just got in the car and drove to my mother's house on the outskirts of town. I parked across the street. I saw my mother helping Vivian out of the car. My sister moved slowly, holding onto the door. Even from here, I could see the bruise under her left eye. Dark purple blurred. Her lip was cut and swollen. She walked as if every step was an effort. I got out of the car. My mother saw me first. Her face immediately froze. Angelica, I asked you not to come. I want to talk to Vivian. She doesn't want to talk to you. But Vivian raised her head. She looked at me, and there was nothing in her eyes. No anger, no pain, just emptiness. Let her in, she said quietly. Mom turned to her in surprise. Are you sure? Yes, let her come in. We went inside. Mom helped Vivian to the sofa in the living room. My sister sat down carefully as if afraid of making any unnecessary movements. I stood by the door, not knowing what to say. Sit down. Vivian nodded toward the chair opposite her. I sat down. Mom bustled about in the kitchen, clattering with the kettle, but I knew she was listening to every word. Viv, I'm so sorry, I began. I don't know what happened, but—" "You don't know," she interrupted. Her voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "You really don't know?" I froze. "What are you talking about?" "About how you always wanted Lucas for yourself." The words hit me like a slap. I stared at her. "What? Don't pretend. I saw it. He saw it too. Everyone saw it." "Vivian, I didn't do anything. I barely talked to him." "That's a lie." She leaned forward, and I could see she was in pain. "You always looked at him differently. You laughed at his jokes louder than everyone else. You found reasons to touch his hand." Lucas had been telling me about it for months, but I didn't believe him. I thought he was exaggerating. And then I saw it myself. "When?" "When did you see it?" "At the barbecue in May. You were sitting next to him by the fire. You leaned in so close that your shoulders were touching. He moved away, and you moved closer again. I remembered that evening, the barbecue in my mother's backyard. There were 15 people there, crowded together, all sitting on folding chairs around the fire. I was sitting next to Lucas, but that was because there were no other seats. And yes, our shoulders were touching. But I didn't move closer. It was just crowded. Liv, it was just crowded." "There's always an excuse," she interrupted. "Always. But Lucas isn't stupid. He saw what you were doing. And at the wedding—" She fell silent, pressing her lips together. "What about the wedding?" "He saw someone in the crowd. A girl in a blue dress. She looked like you, same hair, same height. He thought you had come after all, that you couldn't resist ruining my day. And he lost control." I sat silently, trying to digest what I had heard. It was crazy. Lucas hit Vivian because someone in the crowd reminded him of me. It sounded absurd, and at the same time, it's terrifying. "Viv, if he's capable of doing that because of someone who just looks like me, don't you see the problem?" She stood up abruptly, her face contorted in pain, but she stood there looking down at me. "The problem is you, Angelica. You've always been the problem. You've always wanted what I have. You've always tried to be better, smarter, more loved. And now you want to take Lucas away from me, too." "I don't want Lucas. I don't care about him." "Then why are you here?" she exclaimed. "Why can't you just leave us alone?" Mom came out of the kitchen. Her face was stern. "Angelica, you'd better leave." "Mom, I want to help. You've helped enough. Go and don't come back until you're ready to apologize." "Apologize? For what?" "For provoking Lucas, for ruining Vivian's wedding, for everything." I looked at them both, at my mother standing with her arms crossed, and at Vivian trembling with anger and pain, and I realized they really believe it. They really think I'm to blame. "I didn't do anything," I repeated quietly. "Nothing." "Then admit it publicly," my mother said. "Write a post on social media. Tell everyone that you flirted with Lucas and that you're sorry. If you're really innocent, it won't cost you anything to apologize, right?" I remained silent. I understood that if I did that, everyone would believe that I was really guilty. Lucas would be justified, and I would become the one who ruined someone else's wedding out of jealousy. "No," I finally said. "I won't do it." "Then get out," my mother snapped, "and don't come back." Vivian didn't need a sister who was trying to steal her husband. I left. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove away, without looking back. Only a few blocks away, I pulled over to the side of the road and let myself cry. Not because I was hurt, but because I felt helpless. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't prove anything. They had already decided I was guilty, and no words would change their minds. At work the next day, I could barely hold it together. The documents blurred before my eyes. I mixed up 2 cases and almost sent the wrong letter to a client. Drew noticed. He always notices. "Angie, let's have lunch," he said at 1 o'clock. He didn't ask. He ordered. We went to a small cafe around the corner. Drew ordered sandwiches and coffee for both of us, even though I said I wasn't hungry. When the waitress left, he leaned toward me. "Tell me." "About what?" "About why you look like you've been hit by a truck." I tried to smile, but I couldn't. "Family stuff." "What kind of stuff?" And I told him everything about the wedding, the video, Vivian's accusations, and my mother's demands. Drew listened silently, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "So your family thinks you're to blame for that jerk hitting your sister?" "Yes. And they're demanding that you publicly admit to something you didn't do?" "Yes." He paused, then said, "Forget about it." I looked at him in surprise. "What?" "If your relatives are such jerks, forget about them. They'll figure it out themselves if they want to. You don't owe them anything, Angie. Nothing. They chose to believe a manipulator instead of you. That's their problem." "But she's my sister." "So what? That doesn't give her the right to blame you for her own misfortunes. Her fiancé hit her. It was her choice to be with him. It was her choice to believe his lies. It's not your fault." I was silent. Part of me knew he was right. But another part, the part that remembered how Vivian and I shared a room as children, and how we cried together at our father's funeral, couldn't just spit it out and forget it. In the evening, back home, I lay on the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. My phone was buzzing with messages, mostly from friends who had seen the wedding video and were asking what had happened. I didn't reply to anyone. Then a message came from my mom. "Lucas is back. Vivian took him back. They're planning a new wedding in 3 months. Without you." I reread the message 3 times. Lucas was back. Vivian took him back. They are planning a new wedding. It was impossible. How could she take him back after what he did? How could my mom allow it? I opened social media. I found Vivian's page. She had already posted a photo, her and Lucas, embracing, against the backdrop of the sunset. The caption read, "Sometimes love means forgiveness. Thank you all for your support. We are stronger than ever." The comments were mostly supportive. So strong. True love conquers all. You are a wonderful couple. I felt sick. I started scrolling through Lucas's page. Photos with Vivian, photos from construction sites, photos with friends. Nothing suspicious. And then, scrolling further, I saw something strange. A photo taken 3 weeks ago. Lucas is standing outside a coffee shop smiling. Next to him is a woman, blonde, about 30 years old with a stroller next to her. Lucas has his arm around her shoulder. No caption, no comments either. I zoomed in on the photo. The woman was looking at Lucas with a kind of caution. Not with love, not with joy, with caution. Who is she? I took a screenshot and started digging deeper. I checked the tags, checked the comments under other photos. Nothing. But the feeling that something was wrong wouldn't go away. I opened Google and typed in Lucas Delaney Construction Company. Several links to his business page popped up. I spent another half hour typing in different queries until I found it. And there it was. Sheila Harrison on social media. A private profile. But the avatar was the same woman from Lucas's photo. Blonde, with a cautious look. I glanced at the clock. It was 11 p.m. Too late to call anyone. But I couldn't wait. I wrote Sheila a message. "Hi, my name is Angelica Corbin. My sister is engaged to Lucas Delaney. I need to talk to you." I sent it and waited. 1 minute, 2, 5, 10. No reply. I waited all night for a response from the woman in the photo. I checked my phone every 5 minutes, but the screen remained blank. In the morning, when my alarm woke me up, there was still no message. Maybe she got scared. Maybe she never intended to reply. I went to work with a heavy feeling in my chest. The day dragged on unbearably slowly. Drew asked if everything was okay, but I just nodded and hid behind my paperwork. At lunchtime, I checked my phone again. Nothing. Then I opened the photo I had taken yesterday from Lucas's account. A woman with a baby carriage, a cautious look. Lucas's hand on her shoulder. I had to do something. I forwarded the photo to Vivian with a short text. "Who is this?" "Photo from Lucas's account 3 weeks ago." The reply came in 20 minutes. "Are you serious? Are you spying on him on social media too? Angelica, you're sick. It's his cousin if you're so interested. But even if it wasn't her, what business is it of yours? He's my fiancé, mine. Why can't you leave us alone?" His cousin. Maybe so. But something about that explanation didn't add up. I looked at the photo again. The woman didn't look like a relative. She looked scared. I wrote again. "Viv, please just check. Lucas has a past that—" The reply came instantly. "Shut up, just shut up. You're ruining my life, and I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Mom, too. We both agreed. You no longer exist to us." I stared at the screen. "You no longer exist to us." Those words hit me like a punch. I reread them several times, trying to understand if she really meant it. The answer came immediately. The next message from my mother. "Angelica, Vivian, and I have made a decision. You are no longer part of this family. Don't write to us, don't call us, don't show up. You made your choice when you decided to destroy Vivian's happiness. Now live with it." I sat at the table staring at the message, feeling nothing. It was as if ice had formed inside me, extinguishing all emotion. They had disowned me. Drew found me in the archive an hour later. I was sitting on the floor between the shelves, hugging my knees. He sat down next to me without asking any questions. He just sat there. Finally, I looked at him. They disowned me. "Who?" "Mom and Vivian. They said I'm no longer part of the family." He was silent, then looked at me. "I have a friend. He used to be a private investigator before he went into corporate security. If your future son-in-law has skeletons in his closet, Nate will find them." "Drew, I can't ask you—" "You're not asking, I'm offering. And honestly, after everything you've told me, I'm curious about this Lucas guy too. The next 2.5 months were hell. My relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, stopped talking to me one by one. Some blocked me on social media. Others simply ignored my messages. Some wrote angry tirades about how I wasn't ashamed of myself, how I could do that to my own sister. Vivian and Lucas did their best. They told everyone that I was obsessed with Vivian's fiancé, that I was flirting with him, trying to ruin their relationship. The only one who didn't turn away was my Uncle Warren. He called once a week to ask how I was doing and if I needed any help. Sometimes we would meet at a small bar on the outskirts of town, drink beer, and hardly talk. He didn't need any explanations. He just believed me. He hadn't known Lucas long enough to be charmed by him. "That guy always seemed fake to me," he said one evening, twirling a bottle in his hands. "Too polite, too proper. He knows too well how to kiss ass, and everyone loves it. People don't act like that if they're clean." "Everyone else thinks differently," I replied. "Everyone else is blind or doesn't want to see." He paused, then added, "Don't give up, Angie. Promise me." I nodded, though I didn't know how not to give up when your whole family is against you. Nate, Drew's friend, worked fast. In 2 months, he put together a dossier on Lucas, past addresses, financial records, court cases, and there it was. A divorce 3 years ago. Sheila Harrison. Domestic violence charges. Case dismissed due to victim's refusal to testify. "It's her," I said to Drew, showing him the photo from the dossier, the same woman with the stroller. "Not a cousin," Drew remarked. "Not a cousin." I found Sheila through social media. I wrote again, this time from my email, to make it look more official. "My name is Angelica Corbin. My sister is going to marry Lucas Delaney. I know you were married. I need to talk to you, please." The reply came 2 days later. It was short. "Saturday, 10 a.m., Oak Avenue Park, near the playground. Come alone." On Saturday, I arrived 15 minutes early. The park was almost empty. Just a few moms with their kids on the swings. Sheila showed up at exactly 10 a.m. She was pushing a stroller with a little girl in it, about 3 years old, no more. Sheila looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail, her clothes worn. "Angelica?" she asked quietly. "Yes." "Thank you for agreeing to meet." She sat down on the bench, holding the stroller in front of her. I sat down next to her, leaving some distance between us. Sheila was silent, looking at the child. Finally, she spoke. "You said your sister is going to marry him." "Yes, in 2 weeks. It's his second wedding. He ruined the first one by hitting her in front of all the guests." Sheila closed her eyes. "That sounds familiar." "What happened between you?" She was silent for a long time. Then, without opening her eyes, she began to tell her story. "We met 5 years ago. He was charming, attentive. He said I was special, that he had never met a girl like me. 6 months later, we got married, and 3 months after that, it started." "What exactly?" "At first, it was little things. He criticized my clothes. He said I spent too much time with my friends, that they were a bad influence on me. Then he started controlling my money, saying that I was spending it foolishly, that he was better at managing the budget. I let him. I thought he was just being caring." She opened her eyes and looked at me. "And then he started hitting me." "When?" "A year after the wedding. First he pushed me, then he slapped me, then he punched me. Every time he apologized, he cried. He said it was because of stress at work, that he would never do it again. And I believed him, because I wanted to believe him. I listened in silence. When I got pregnant, he got even worse. He was jealous of the doctors, the nurses, even my mother when she came to visit. He said they were trying to turn me against him. Gradually, I stopped communicating with them, just so as not to provoke him. When Mia was born, I thought he would calm down, but it only got worse." "What did he do?" "He hit me. He pushed me. Once he almost strangled me. I called the police. He spent the night in a cell. Then the trial began, but She paused, pressing her lips together. "I couldn't testify against him. He threatened to take Mia away. He said he would prove that I was unfit to be a mother, that I didn't have a job, no money, that I was mentally unstable. And his lawyer was very good. I got scared, and I withdrew my statement." She fell silent, wiping her eyes. We got divorced. He pays child support." "Not enough, but better than nothing. I'm in debt. I rent a room from strangers. I work as a cashier in a supermarket. And he still controls me. He calls, checks where I am, who I'm with. He threatens that if I say a word to anyone about what he did, he'll sue for full custody. And he'll do it. I know he will." I looked at her, exhausted, frightened, broken. And I thought of Vivian, of how she looked after her first wedding, of the bruise under her eye and her split lip. "He'll do it to everyone," Sheila said quietly. "Isolate them from their family, from their friends. He creates conflicts so that you're left alone, so that you have no one but him. And then he controls you through fear. If your sister marries him," she didn't finish, but I understood anyway, "she'll repeat your fate, or worse." "Yes." Sheila didn't look at me, staring at the ground. "Stop him, please. I can't. He'll destroy me, but maybe you can." She pulled a folder out of her bag. Inside were copies of documents, court records, medical reports, photos of bruises. "Take them, but please don't say I gave them to you if he finds out." Her voice trembled. "I won't survive another fight with him. I won't survive. Say you got them from hospitals, court, friends, or somewhere else. But don't let him know it was me." I took the folder. Sheila got up, adjusted her wheelchair, and left without looking back. I sat on the bench, holding the documents, and watched the back of this broken woman. What now? The wedding is in 2 weeks. Vivian doesn't believe me, neither does Mom. I'll make Emma the whole family is against me, but I have proof, and I have Uncle Warren. That evening, I called him. I told him everything. About Sheila, about the documents, about what I was planning to do. "I'm going to the wedding," I said, "even if they don't let me in." I'll show everyone who Lucas really is. Maybe Vivian will hate me even more. Maybe Mom will too. But I can't let her marry him, knowing what's waiting for her. If I just go and show everyone, no one will believe me, but at the wedding, in front of everyone, there's no hiding it. My uncle was silent for a few seconds. Then he replied, "Oh, I'll be there. If necessary, I'll go with you. I won't let him hurt you." I felt something melt in my chest. Finally, someone was on my side. Finally, I wasn't alone. "Thank you," I whispered. "Hang in there, kid. 2 more weeks. Then we'll show everyone the truth." I hung up the phone and opened the folder with Sheila's documents. The photo of Vivian with the bruise popped back into my mind. I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if Vivian would believe me, but I had to try. Otherwise, my sister would repeat Sheila's fate and might not survive. The wedding day was Saturday. I woke up at 6 in the morning, even though the ceremony wasn't scheduled to start until 2 in the afternoon. I hadn't slept most of the night. Tossing and turning, running through all the possible scenarios in my head. What I would say, how Vivian would react, what Lucas would do. The folder with Sheila's documents was on the table. I checked it for the 3rd time. Copies of court records, medical reports describing her injuries, photos of bruises on Sheila's arms and face. A photo of little Mia, Lucas's daughter, whom Vivian didn't even know about. Everything was in place. The phone rang at 8, Uncle Warren. "Good morning, child. Are you ready?" "As ready as you can be for something like this?" "I'm on my way to the church." I was invited, like the rest of the family. "I'll be inside, keeping an eye on the situation. When you arrive, text me. I'll come out if I need to." "Okay. Thank you, Uncle Warren." "Take care, and remember, you're doing the right thing." I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale with dark circles under my eyes. I had lost 10 pounds in the last few months. I just had no appetite. I dressed simply. Dark jeans, a white shirt, a black jacket. I didn't want to look like I was there to celebrate. I arrived at the church at 1:30. The parking lot was already half full. The guests were gathering. I recognized a few cars. Aunt Lindsay's, Cousin Kyle's, my mom's neighbors. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. I texted my uncle, "I'm here." The reply came almost instantly. "I see you. I'll wait at the entrance." I got out of the car, clutching the folder with the documents. My legs were shaking, but I forced myself to walk forward. Several people were standing at the entrance to the church. Some were smoking, some were talking on the phone. Uncle Warren was standing apart, leaning on the railing. He nodded to me as I approached. "Vivian's already inside, Lucas too. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. "I know. Are you sure?" I looked at him, his gray hair, the wrinkles around his eyes, his strong mechanic's hands, the only person who hadn't turned away from me. "Yes, I'm sure." We walked to the entrance together, but at the door we were stopped by a man in a suit, probably the wedding planner or one of Lucas's friends. "Excuse me, are you on the guest list?" "I'm the bride's sister," I said. He looked at his tablet, then at me. "Angelica Corbin." "Yes." "You're not on the list. I'm sorry, but you can't come in." "Are you kidding?" "No, miss. The bride personally asked that you not be allowed in. Please leave the premises." Uncle Warren stepped forward. "Listen, young man." "Sir, if you try to force your way in, I'll have to call security." I touched my uncle's arm. "Don't. Go inside. I'll wait here." He wanted to argue, but I shook my head. My uncle sighed and disappeared behind the door. I remained on the steps, clutching the folder. The organizer looked at me suspiciously. "Miss, you really should go." "I'll wait here. I won't get in the way." He was about to say something, but at that moment another couple of guests approached, and he turned his attention to them. I stepped aside and stood by a column. From there I could see the entrance, but those coming and going would not notice me right away. The minutes dragged on unbearably slowly. I heard music playing inside the church. The ceremony was beginning. I imagined Vivian walking down the aisle in a white dress, smiling, holding a bouquet. I imagined Lucas standing at the altar, charming and perfect as always. I imagined the guests looking at them, whispering about how beautiful it was, and I stood outside like a stranger. The music changed. The ceremony must have begun. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The organizer rushed towards me, but I was already inside. The church was full, at least 100 people. Everyone turned around when they heard the door open. Vivian was standing at the altar next to Lucas, and the priest was holding a Bible. The music stopped. "Angelica, what are you doing?" my mother exclaimed, rising from the front row. I walked down the aisle holding the folder in front of me. My heart was pounding so loudly that it seemed everyone could hear it. "Viv, I need to talk to you." "Get out of here," Vivian shouted. Her face was red, her eyes full of tears. "You have no right to be here. I have something you need to see." "Before you say yes." "I don't want to see anything. You're crazy. You're obsessed with me and Lucas." The guests began to murmur. Someone shouted, "Someone get her out of here." Aunt Lindsay rushed over to me and grabbed me by the shoulder. "Are you going to ruin her wedding again? Wasn't the first time enough?" "Let me go." I tried to break free, but my aunt held me tight. "You're a selfish little girl. You always wanted to be the center of attention. You can't accept that Vivian is happy." My cousin Emma jumped up from the other side and grabbed my arm too. "She's just jealous. She's always been jealous of Vivian." "I'm not jealous," I shouted, trying to break free. "Lucas is dangerous. He has a past." "That's a lie," someone in the crowd shouted. "She just can't accept that he chose Vivian." Uncle Warren got up from the bench and pushed his way through the crowd. "Let the girl speak," he said firmly. "She's going to ruin the wedding. Again," Aunt Lindsay shouted, still holding on to me. "Maybe we should listen to her." Uncle Warren pushed Emma away, and she let go of my hand. Aunt Lindsay finally loosened her grip, too. I walked up to the altar holding the folder. My shoulder hurt from my aunt's grip. Vivian looked at me with hatred. Lucas stood nearby, his face tense but still controlled. He smiled, coldly, without warmth. "Angelica, this is inappropriate. Please leave. Don't make this harder for everyone." "You have a daughter," I said loudly so everyone could hear. "She's 3 years old. Her name is Miff. And you had a wife, Sheila Garrison. You beat her. She filed for divorce but withdrew the petition because you threatened to take the child." Silence. Absolute silence. Even the guests' breathing seemed loud. "That's a lie," Lucas said quietly. "No." I opened the folder and took out the documents. Here is a copy of the divorce decree. Here are medical reports on Sheila's injuries. Here is a photo of your daughter. I held out the folder to Vivian. She didn't take it. She just stared at me as if in a trance. "Viv, please look. Don't you dare," Lucas shouted and snatched the folder from my hands. The documents scattered on the floor. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing so hard that I cried out in pain. "You lying little bitch! You're trying to ruin everything! Why can't you just leave us alone?" "Lucas, let her go!" Vivian shouted, but her voice was trembling. But he didn't listen. He dragged me toward the exit, squeezing and pulling my arm so hard that I could feel my bones crack. I tried to break free, but he was much stronger than me. His face contorted. No more charming smile, only rage. "You think you're smarter than everyone else? You think you can just come here and ruin our lives?" Suddenly, Uncle Warren was between us. He pushed Lucas in the chest, hard and fast. Lucas pulled my arm one last time, causing another flash of searing pain, and let go, taking a step back. "Don't you dare touch her," Uncle Warren said low. Lucas stared at him, then suddenly swung at him. The blow was quick, but my uncle managed to dodge it. Lucas lunged forward again, this time pushing my uncle in the shoulder. My uncle didn't fall. He just staggered and responded with a punch to the stomach. Lucas bent over, but quickly straightened up and pushed my uncle again, harder. The guests screamed. Someone rushed to separate them. My cousin Kyle and a few other men grabbed Lucas by the arms. I lay on the floor, clutching my wrist. The pain was unbearable, my arm throbbing. "Everyone calm down," Kyle shouted, pulling Lucas away. "Stop it!" Mom stood with her face covered in her hands, and Vivian suddenly rushed, not to Lucas. She rushed to her uncle, who was standing, breathing heavily, massaging his shoulder. "Uncle, are you okay?" she asked in a trembling voice. "I'm fine, girl. How about you?" She didn't answer. She turned to Lucas, who was still being held by Kyle and the other men. Lucas's face was red and contorted. He was breathing heavily as he looked at Vivian. "Viv, listen, it's not what you think," he began, trying to regain control of his voice. "This girl is sick. She made it all up because she's jealous of you." "Jealous of us?" "You have a daughter," she interrupted quietly and looked back at the scattered documents, among which was a photo of a child looking into the camera. That was a long time ago. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you would misunderstand. It was a mistake of youth, Viv. I didn't. You have a daughter and an ex-wife, and you beat her. No, she's lying. Sheila is crazy. She made it all up to get back at me for the divorce. And this one, he nodded at me. This little whore made it all up to destroy our happiness. She wants me for herself, Viv. She always has. "Don't you dare say that," Vivian cried, her voice cracking. Tears streamed down her cheeks, smearing her makeup. "Don't you dare call her that." Lucas stared at her as if he didn't recognize her. "You believe her? Her? After everything she's done, after she tried to ruin our first wedding, after she flirted with me for months?" "What did she do, Lucas?" Vivian asked quietly. "What exactly?" "She tried to seduce me. She kept coming up to me, looking at me like that." "You saw it yourself, at the barbecue, at the picnic." "I saw her sitting next to you at the barbecue because there were no other seats. I saw her being polite when you were joking around. What else was I supposed to see? You don't understand. She's cunning. She did everything to make it look innocent." Vivian was silent. She looked at him for a long time, intently. Then she bent down and picked up one of the documents from the floor, Sheila's medical report. She read it. Her face changed. Broken ribs, bruises on the face and body, signs of strangulation, she read aloud. The victim refused to file a report. "Viv, this isn't..." "Then what is it?" She raised her head, looking at him through her tears. "Then what is it, Lucas? A fake? That was a long time ago. I've changed. I'm not the same man. You hit me at our wedding, in front of 100 people. You said it was because of Angelica, even though she wasn't even there. Because I thought I saw her. Because she drove me crazy with her games." "What games, Lucas?" "What exactly?" He was silent. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He searched for words, but couldn't find them. "Get out," Vivian said quietly. "What?" "Get out. Go away. I don't want to see you." "Viv, don't do this. We can talk about it. I'll explain." "It's all her fault." He pointed his finger at me again. "She planned it all." "Get out!" Vivian shouted so loudly that everyone flinched. "Get out of the church! Get out of my life!" Kyle and the other men began to escort Lucas to the exit. He resisted, shouting something about Vivian regretting it, about her ruining her life, about Angelica ruining everything, about him loving her, about them being able to be happy. His voice broke into a scream, then became pleading, almost tearful. But they dragged him outside, and the door slammed shut behind him. Silence. Absolute suffocating silence. Only one of the guests was quietly sobbing. Vivian stood at the altar in her white dress, tearful, her makeup smudged. The bouquet lay on the floor, white roses scattered. Mom came up to her and put her arms around her shoulders. Vivian leaned against her, sobbing deeply and desperately, as if something inside her was breaking. I picked up the documents from the floor and put them back in the folder. My hand hurt unbearably. Lucas had squeezed it so hard that my wrist was already red and swollen, so I had to do everything with one hand. My fingers barely obeyed me. Uncle Warren came up to me and helped me up. "Come on, child, you need to see a doctor. I'm fine." "Angie, your hand looks terrible. Come on." He led me to the exit. The guests parted, looking at me, some with pity, some with guilt, some simply with shock. Aunt Lindsay was crying, holding onto the bench. Emma stood nearby, her face pale. She looked away as I walked past. The police were already outside. One of the guests had called them. 2 officers stood by their car, one talking on a radio. The older one approached us. "What happened here?" "The groom attacked my niece," said Uncle Warren, nodding at my arm. "I stopped him before he broke anything." "Where is he now?" "He ran away. He left in a car about 5 minutes ago, a silver pickup truck. I don't know the license plate number." The officer wrote something down in his notebook, then asked me to tell him everything from the beginning. I told him about Lucas, about Sheila, about the documents, about how he grabbed me. I showed him my hand. My wrist was already blue, twice as swollen, and hurting more and more. The officer nodded grimly. "You need to go to the hospital. It looks like a fracture, and we'll find him. He won't get far." "Does the bride want to file a report?" asked the second officer, who was younger. "I don't know," I replied, "but probably, yes." My uncle drove me to the hospital. We sat in silence the whole way. The pain was getting worse. In the emergency room, the nurse examined my hand and said I needed an X-ray. I sat in the hallway waiting, staring at the white walls. My uncle brought me coffee from the vending machine. Nasty, burnt, but warm. The X-ray showed a fracture in my wrist bone. They put a cast on me. White, heavy, clumsy. They gave me painkillers and a prescription for more medicine to take home. "You'd better stay overnight," said the nurse, a young woman with sympathetic eyes. "For observation. After an injury and stress, it's better to be under supervision." "No, I want to go home." "But you really should." "I want to go home," I repeated, my voice sounding sharper than I intended. The nurse flinched, but nodded. My uncle signed the papers refusing hospitalization, and we left. He drove me to my apartment and helped me up the stairs. My arm in a cast was heavy and awkward, and my balance was off. He stopped at the door. "Are you really okay, kid?" "Yes." "Angela, I can stay if you want." "No, thank you. I just want to be alone." "Are you sure?" "Yes. I'm just very tired, Uncle." "Very tired." He paused, then nodded. He hugged me carefully so as not to touch my broken arm and left. I heard his footsteps receding down the stairs, then the front door closed. I went inside, closed the door, and just stood in the hallway at first. It was dark, quiet, cold. I had forgotten to turn on the heat in the morning. My phone vibrated in my pocket, messages, calls. I took it out with my good hand and looked at the screen. 32 missed calls, messages from my mom, from Vivian, from Aunt Lindsay, from Emma, from people I didn't even remember. I didn't read any of them. I just turned off the sound and put the phone on the table. I walked into the living room and turned on the light. Everything was the same as it had been in the morning. A half-finished cup of coffee on the table, a book I hadn't finished reading a week ago, a blanket on the sofa. It seemed like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The last few months replayed in my head like a movie on repeat. Relatives who hated me, who looked at me like I was a leper when I saw someone, who whispered behind my back and pointed fingers, Mom and Vivian, who officially and publicly disowned me, writing to everyone that I was no longer part of the family. The church, where those same relatives were ready to tear me apart just for daring to show up. Aunt Lindsay, who grabbed my shoulder so hard that I would have a bruise by morning. Emma, who yelled that I was jealous. Lucas, who broke my arm, looking me in the eye with such hatred. A broken arm, a pain that throbbed even through the painkillers. Exhaustion. I was so tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving something to people who didn't want to listen. Tired of being the one who was always to blame, even when I hadn't done anything. Tired of crying, tired of being angry, tired of feeling anything at all. I slowly made my way to the bedroom without turning on the light, feeling a growing heaviness settling in my body, trying to pin me to the ground. I fell onto the bed without undressing or taking off my shoes. The cast weighed heavily on my chest. I stared at the ceiling, at the shadows from the streetlights dancing there. And I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. The phone in the living room vibrated again, quietly muffled. I didn't move, I didn't go to look, I just lay there. I closed my eyes and finally allowed myself to just exist. Without thoughts, without feelings, without hope, just emptiness. Deep, cold, endless emptiness. The first week after the wedding, I hardly left the apartment. I took sick leave from work, officially because of a broken arm, but really because I couldn't bring myself to get out of bed. I ate when Uncle Warren brought me food. I slept 16 hours a day. The rest of the time, I just lay there staring at the ceiling. The phone rang constantly. Mom, Vivian, relatives. I didn't answer. I read the messages. Apologies, pleas, explanations. But I didn't respond. The words blurred before my eyes, not reaching my brain. It was as if I were reading a foreign language I didn't understand. Drew came twice. He sat on the couch and talked about work, about some nonsense from the office. I listened, sometimes nodding. He didn't demand answers, didn't pressure me. He was just there. 2 weeks later, Sheila called me. Her voice was trembling. Angelica? It's Sheila Harrison. I heard what happened at your sister's wedding. I'm so sorry. I was silent, holding the phone to my ear. I want to take him to court. For good. Take away his right to see Mia. Get normal child support. But I can't do it alone. He scares me. And you're a lawyer, right? Yes, I said. My first words in several days. My voice was hoarse, unfamiliar. Will you help me? I looked at the cast on my arm, at the empty apartment, at the phone filled with unread messages. Yes, I'll help you. The case lasted 4 months. I returned to work, first part-time, then full-time. I gathered evidence, talked to witnesses, drafted lawsuits. Sheila came to the office every week. At first scared, then gradually bolder. We talked about Lucas, what he did, how he manipulated. I wrote everything down, turning the pain into legal language. Lucas was arrested a month after the wedding. Vivian filed a complaint. Assault on me, assault on her at the first wedding. Plus Sheila's old accusations, which she now refused to withdraw. He sat in jail awaiting trial. The court hearings were exhausting. Lucas looked at me from the cage, first with hatred, then with something like horror when he realized he was losing. Sheila testified, trembling. I sat next to her, holding her hand. I felt the touch, but felt nothing inside, just empty. It's strange, I guess, but I hadn't cared for a long time. We won. Lucas got 3 years. Sheila got full custody of Mia, compensation, and reasonable child support. She cried in the court hallway, hugged me, thanked me. I stood there letting her hug me and felt nothing, just exhaustion. After the trial, I got a promotion. Senior corporate lawyer, higher salary, my own office, an assistant. I nodded when they told me. I said, thank you. And I went home. But I didn't go back to my old apartment. A week after the trial, I moved to the other side of town, a small one-room apartment, 7th floor, windows overlooking the park. Quiet, peaceful. No one knows the address except Uncle Warren. Mom called every day. I didn't answer. Vivian wrote long messages, apologizing, begging to meet, saying she was in therapy. I read and deleted them. My relatives, Aunt Lindsay, Emma, others, also wrote. They apologized for not believing me, for accusing me, for everything. I felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction, not even anger. Just nothing. Drew found my new address a month later. I hadn't told anyone at work where I lived, but he just showed up in the evening with a bag of Chinese food. How did you find me? I asked, opening the door. Having a detective friend has its advantages. He smiled. Will you let me in? I stepped aside. We sat on the floor. There wasn't much furniture yet, just a mattress in the bedroom and an old table in the kitchen. We ate noodles straight from the boxes. Drew told me about something funny that had happened in court. I listened, sometimes the corners of my lips lifting, not a smile, but an attempt at one. "Angie," he said suddenly, putting down the box, "I need to tell you something." I looked at him. He seemed nervous, rubbing his hands, not looking me in the eye. God, this is harder than I thought. He sighed, then finally looked at me. "I like you. Not as a colleague, not as a friend. I like you in a different way. For a long time, maybe forever. I'm not saying this to pressure you. I just want you to know." I stared at him. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, abruptly, unexpectedly. For the first time in months, I felt something. Not fatigue, not emptiness. Something else. Shock. Surprise. And then, the slightest glimmer of something warm. "Drew." "You don't have to answer right now," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know that I'm here, and I'll wait as long as it takes." I was silent, looking at him. At his chestnut hair, which was always a little messy, at his sincere brown eyes, his hands that held mine in the courtroom hallway when I defended Sheila. I don't know if I can feel anything," I said quietly. "I haven't felt much of anything for many months, just tiredness, emptiness, nothing. I understand. That's why I'm not asking for an answer. Just know that I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere so I can help you in any way I can." He left an hour later. I sat on the floor, hugging my knees, thinking about his words, about how, for the first time in all this time, my heart was pounding not from fear or pain, from something else. The next week, we went to a cafe, just for coffee. Drew talked about his family. His parents, who divorced when he was 10, his younger sister, who is studying to be a doctor. I listened, sometimes asking questions. Then I told him about my dad, about the car accident when I was 8, about how my mom changed after that, about Vivian, who was always the favorite. Drew listened attentively. He didn't interrupt or give advice. He just listened. "It's hard for you," he finally said. "What you've been through, few people could handle it." "Sometimes I'm not sure I can handle it," I admitted. "You can handle it. You're here. You're breathing. That's already a victory." We started dating officially 2 weeks later. He didn't pressure me or demand more than I could give. We went to the movies, to the park, just walked the streets. He held my hand, and gradually I began to feel it. Not just the touch of skins, but warmth, support, something alive. Vivian was still writing. She told me about therapy, about a support group for victims of domestic violence, about how hard it was to admit that she was a victim, about how she looked for Sheila and talked to her, about how she realized that the same fate would await her. I read the messages now. I didn't reply, but I read them. One Saturday morning, more than 6 months after the wedding, I sat on a bench in the park near my new apartment. I drank coffee from a paper cup and watched the children running around the playground. Drew had gone to his parents for the weekend, and I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely. Just calm. For the first time in a long time. "Angie." I turned around. Vivian was standing behind the bench. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, she had lost weight, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She was dressed simply. Jeans, a sweater, no makeup. For a while, I just looked at her silently, until I finally asked calmly, "How did you find me?" "Uncle Warren, I begged him for a month. He finally gave in." I nodded. Vivian walked around the bench and sat down next to me. We sat in silence for a few minutes. "I understand if you don't want to talk to me," she said quietly. I couldn't not try." I was silent, watching the children. They were noisy, but that was somewhere else. Here it was quite quiet and peaceful. "I was a bitch," Vivian continued. The biggest, worst bitch in the world. You tried to save me, and I blamed you, I hated you, I disowned you, I let everyone else hate you too. I looked at her. Vivian's face was wet with tears. I talked to Sheila, she said, after the trial. She told me what she went through, how he isolated her, beat her, threatened her, and I realized... Her voice broke. I realized that the same thing would have happened to me, maybe even worse. He would have destroyed me. And you saved me. You sacrificed everything, your family, your reputation, your peace of mind, to save me. And I hated you for it. I felt something stir in my chest. Not anger, not pain, something else. Something old, almost forgotten. I'm sorry, Vivian whispered. I'm so sorry, Angie. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And thank you. Thank you for not giving up, even when I did everything I could to ruin your life. I looked at my hands, at the scar on my wrist left by the cast. I thought about those months, about the hatred of my relatives, about loneliness, about the emptiness inside, about how much it cost me. I can't forgive you, I said quietly. Not now. Vivian nodded, wiping her face. I understand. It's not that I don't want to, I continued. It's hard for me to feel anything. These last few months, I felt almost nothing, only exhaustion, only emptiness. It's a little better now, but it's still hard. I'm not rushing you, Vivian said quickly. I can wait and help as long as it takes. I looked at her. The sister I shared a room with as a child, the one we cried with at our father's funeral, the one who then became a stranger, who hated me, who now sits next to me, tearful, broken, more like me than ever. We can try, I finally said, slowly. No promises, just try. Vivian's face lit up. Really? Yes, but I need time, a lot of time, as much as you need. She reached out her hand, but stopped halfway as if afraid to touch me. I looked at her hand, then I placed my palm on top of hers. I felt warmth, not much, but something. We sat like that for a few minutes. Then I took my hand away. I have to go, I said. Can I write to you? Sometimes? Yes, you can. You haven't stopped all these months anyway, so nothing will change. Vivian nodded. She stood up, wanted to say something, but just nodded again and left. I watched her until she disappeared around the corner. I sat on the bench for another hour, thinking about everything. About those months of hell, about my lost family, about the pain that still throbbed somewhere deep inside, about how I had done the right thing by saving Vivian from Lucas. But at what cost? Saving someone sometimes means losing their love forever. I thought that's how it would be, that Vivian would never forgive me for destroying her happiness, that the family would be broken forever. But sometimes love comes back, slowly, painfully, not immediately and not completely, but it comes back. I got up from the bench. The phone rang. Drew. Hi, I answered, and for the first time in months, my voice sounded almost alive. Hi, how are you? Vivian found me. And how is it? I don't know yet, but maybe someday it will be okay. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. Something warm spread through my chest, not emptiness, not fatigue, something real. Thank you, I whispered. Another month. Vivian wrote to me every week. Briefly, cautiously, she told me about her therapy, her work, sometimes just sent photos of a cat she picked up near her house, cups of coffee, sunsets. I sometimes replied with a word or two. But I replied. Mom wrote, too. She apologized again and again. I didn't reply to her. I couldn't yet, but I read her letters. Uncle Warren came every Saturday. We drank beer on the balcony and looked out over the city. He didn't ask about Vivian or Mom. He was just there. Drew became part of my life. Not the center, not the savior, just part. We had dinner together, watched movies, sometimes just sat in silence. He didn't ask for more than I could give. And gradually, I began to give more. My smiles became genuine. My laughter was not forced. My touch was not just physical. One evening, as we lay on the couch, I suddenly realized I was feeling again. Not just fatigue, not just emptiness. Real emotions. Joy when Drew jokes. Peace when he hugs me. Hope when I think about the future. I haven't forgiven Vivian yet. I haven't forgiven my mother. I haven't forgiven my relatives. But I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not running away. I'm just living my life, slowly, carefully, rebuilding myself step by step. Maybe someday we'll be a family again. Not like before. That's impossible. Too much has happened, too many wounds. But maybe a different kind of family. More honest, stronger. But even if not, I'll survive. Because I've already been through hell. And I came out the other side. Burned, broken, scarred, but alive. And that's enough. I sat on the balcony, holding a cup of hot tea. Drew was napping on the couch inside. My phone beeped. A message from Vivian. A photo of us as children 10 years ago. We're both smiling, hugging each other. Do you remember this day? We went to the lake with Dad. He took this photo. I found it in an old album. I want you to know that I remember how we were. And I believe that someday we will be that way again. Not the same, but together, if you let me. I looked at the photo for a long time. Then I typed a reply. I remember too, and I believe too. Someday. I sent it. I put my phone down. I looked at the city, at the lights in the windows, at the stars above the rooftops. Somewhere far away in prison, Lucas was sitting. Sheila was finally free, raising Mia without fear. Vivian was in therapy, learning to live without him. And I was learning to be alive again. It was a long journey, painful, exhausting, but I walked it, step by step, day by day, and for the first time in all this time, I thought, maybe everything will be okay. Not now, not tomorrow, but someday, maybe.